Christians United for Israel are not keeping silent. My help comes from the Lord.
Amongst Israel's most fervent allies, American evangelicals.
He who defends Israel neither slumbers.
Do you consider yourself a Christian Zionist?
Senator, I'm a Christian, and I robustly support the state of Israel.
Ultra-conservative Christians now serving in key roles under President Trump.
Mr. President, history...
Fueling hopes amongst Israeli settlers.
The truth is that the Palestinians are not a nation.
Determined to finally kill off any possibility of a Palestinian state.
They just want to drive people out. Annexation of the West Bank means we're done.
In a 12th century Jerusalem church, a group of American evangelical Christians are singing in praise of Christ. We joined them on a tour around the old city.
So, the most holy place for Christians who come to Jerusalem.
Leading us, pastor and biblical archaeologist John Delancey from Pennsylvania.
Initially, the entrance was from the east.
For these devout believers, modern Israel is where the land of the Bible comes to life. But it's not just about history.
What we see happening in Israel right now, I believe, is a sign that we are moving closer and closer and closer to the end times.
When will this happen chronologically? Here's the answer. Ready? I don't know. Okay.
For many evangelicals, the return of the Jews to Israel is a precursor to the rapture, when true believers will be lifted to heaven, ahead of Armageddon and the return of Christ.
The greatest miracle in the history of the world, second only to the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
These are not fringe beliefs. This group, Christians United for Israel, boasts 10 million followers. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has addressed their annual conference. And for them, Palestinians are living on Jewish land.
Why do we stand with Israel? God's foreign policy is, was, and always will be. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you.
But just think that the temple that once stood there in the days of...
For John and the tour group, these apocalyptic beliefs are part of the attraction behind visiting Israel.
And a lot of the evangelicals you interact with, for them, this isn't a myth or a metaphor. It's a literal sequence of events that they believe will unfold.
Absolutely, it is. Israel is growing in their population of Jews from the diaspora, as we say, now returning to the land. And that's a good thing, and most evangelicals will say that this is a big sign pointing to how imminent the return of Christ may be.
So the end of time is basically the apocalypse.
Absolutely.
To non-believers, evangelical views might seem outlandish, but they're a hugely powerful force in American politics, making up around 20% of all voters.
Well, I think, the coming to Israel is what really helps to bring what you read in the Bible come alive.
And like Rick, they're overwhelmingly staunch supporters of Donald Trump.
What are you hoping to see from him in terms of the Middle East?
Definitely strong support of Israel. I think that's, for me, that's something I want to see. I call myself an unapologetic Zionist. I believe it's important for Israel to exist.
Is that based on religion and the kind of role of Israel in biblical teachings? Is it based on politics?
Well, I think it's both. For me, certainly the Bible commands, the whole faith, our faith is based on Jewish people.
Now, Pete Hegseth returns to the Holy Land.
Former Fox News reporter Pete Hegseth is one of a number of prominent evangelicals now serving under President Trump, recently appointed the Secretary of Defense.
That Zionism and Americanism are the front lines of Western civilization and freedom in our world today.
And here's Trump's pick as ambassador to Israel, former pastor and state governor Mike Huckabee.
There is no such thing as a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria.
Judea and Samaria is the biblical name for what even the US government has always called the West Bank, land intended to be at the heart of a Palestinian state. This was Huckabee in 2018, helping build a settlement there, even though they're deemed illegal internationally.
When the Bible says that God gave this land to the Jewish people, I accept that.
An opportunity to apply full Israeli sovereignty on all areas in Judea and Samaria.
It's a narrative also shared by Jewish settlers, like far-right Israeli politician Ohad Tal.
Mr. President,
here he is speaking at Trump's Florida home. He and other settler leaders want Trump to support resuming the war in Gaza and annexation of the occupied West Bank.
And the MAGA hat?
Yeah, even the MAGA hat.
See, so you spend a lot of time out there?
I've been in the States, I think, in the past year around 15 times.
Evangelical Christians have been appointed to some high-profile positions within the Trump administration. How important do you think those figures and their views will be?
They believe that this is the biblical homeland of the Jewish people, so definitely I expect them to support these policies also.
With Trump in office, Israel's settler movement hoped to formally take over the occupied West Bank, destroying any remaining possibility of a separate Palestinian state.
If you were to annex the entirety of the West Bank, including the Palestinian majority areas, and then did not give that population equal voting rights in the state that they were living in to the Israelis, that would be apartheid. What other word could there be for it?
The truth is that the Palestinians are not a nation. They are a tribal society. Let's allow them to have different autonomies, local governing themselves. They will only have to accept one principle, that this area is a Jewish state.
It's hard to predict what President Trump's policies will be towards this contested land. He wants to broker a historic deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel, and that's likely to include some commitment to creating a Palestinian state. On the ground, Israeli settlers are already making that next to impossible.
The way Israeli governments have been expanding settlements here, the way they've been expanding their overall control of the occupied West Bank, many describe Israel as already de facto annexing the territory.
We've come to the village of Turmuseya. Most of these plush homes have been built by Palestinian-American dual nationals. But with violence flaring, the area is now on the front line of attacks by extremist Israeli settlers.
They just want to drive people out from this area. So they want to empty it completely from people so they can take it over.
Yasser moved back here from California after retiring as a lawyer and is now Turmuseya's spokesman.
One of the things the Israeli right wing are lobbying for is formally annexing at least part of the West Bank. Is that something you worry Trump could accept?
We worry that he might agree and he might do that step, which is a very, very dangerous step for us Palestinians. It takes away the hope that we have been living for, which is an independent Palestinian state. Annexation of the West Bank means we're done.
On the horizon, an ancient biblical site and ever-expanding Israeli settlements. Now a new chapter in this old conflict could be about to begin.